I'm just going to present to you Sheila Khan, who I'm very glad to be here with today. So Sheila is a sociologist, currently a researcher at the Center for Communication and Society Studies at the University of Minho. She holds a PhD in ethnic and cultural studies from the University of Warwick, and she has focused on post-colonial studies in her academic career, with a special focus on relations between Mozambique and Portugal. Among the themes she has worked on contemporary Mozambican and Portuguese history and literature, narratives of life and identity from the global south, authorities of memory, and post-memory. I think that's it from my side. Feel free to ask questions in the chat throughout the talk, and we will address them all in the end, like Barbara said. And Sheila, please, thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I'd just like to say thank you. My gratitude for Clara, Amand, and to Barbara. They were extremely, I would say, good for me for addressing this invitation, especially in the time that we really need to go to the past and carefully think and deconstruct some ideas, some thoughts, some principles, and some convictions. But allow me to say as well, my gratitude for the people who are here with us, because it's afternoon, so some of them it's lunchtime, for others probably it's a little bit of a coffee time, so my gratitude for that. Just to say one thing, I work as well as a researcher with University of Minho, but today actually I'm assistant professor and integrated research at University of Luso-Tropicalism University. Okay. I'm very happy with the title that Barbara offered to me after our first meeting and our first conversation to understand and to what we're going to do and sharing with this moment, because it's a short moment, it's only 30 minutes, so I'll be very clear with you. The title is Denial and Myth, Deconstructing the Denial and Reality, Deconstructing the Myth of Luso-Tropicalism. Allow me to say one thing. I'm very, very, very obsessed with backgrounds. I cannot understand nothing, ideas, concepts, and how the evolution of reality without going back to the backgrounds. Okay, for a person that is not familiar with Luso-Tropicalism, the first thing is to go back and to go back to the 20th century, 20th century, at the beginning of colonialism, Portuguese colonialism. Luso-Tropicalism is grounded in the idea that Portuguese colonialism, above all, the myth of the imperial grammar, was a magnific grammar to embrace other cultures. This is the most, the resume to understand the Luso-Tropicalism. It's the idea that the Portuguese brought the world to the other peoples, but above all, it's the Portuguese ability, sensitivity, and capacity to mix with other people, other cultures, other manners of thoughts and living. Of course, this was a fallacy. Why? Because we have at the same time the project of Western modernity, and Western modernity has its own principles, the idea of superiority. We Europeans, we bring knowledge, we bring civilization, we bring progress to other people. This was almost the energy, the roots to understand the big, the long and old narrative of imperialism and colonialism. Why, you might ask, but Sheila, why is this fallacy? Because when the Brazilian sociologist Gilberto Freyre first presented and coined this ability, this sensitivity as Luso-Tropicalism, Portugal, and it's very important to remind this, it was the time of dictatorship. We had Salazar, was not very happy at the beginning with this idea of us being Luso-Tropicalists, as Portuguese imperial people, to be able to mix with other peoples. Why? Because we had this idea of own superiority. We are more civilized, we are morally different, and we don't want to mix with other people. What is very interesting is that through time, and because of the pressure after the Second World War, the pressure of the United Nations, the pressure of many countries that were making their own route, anti-colonial route, anti-colonial struggles, colonial liberal struggles. Portugal, received a lot of pressure from the United Nations. So it was necessary to reinvent, to recreate the new narrative. With this sense, we start not having colonies, but overseas territories. So we are talking about the same experience with different vocabulary, with different narratives. This is very important to make, and it makes all the difference with what I'm going to say. And forgive me to say this, remember to listen to me like you were listening to a novel. I start this with saying that Luso-Tropicalism was a fallacy, and it was a fallacy, and I will go there. It is like a character here. So with the pressure after the Second World War, and with the emergence of anti-colonial movements, especially in Asia and Africa, Portugal had the need and the pressure to rewrite the name of colonies. So we are not more any, we don't have more any colonies, we don't possess colonies, we possess overseas territories. And at this moment, and we are talking after the Second World War, so we are thinking the decade of 50, the decade of 60, the Luso-Tropicalism start to being embraced and esteemed by the Portuguese government. Why? Because we need to say to the United Nations, and we need to say to the world, we were a benevolent colonial country. We were a benevolent colonizer. We were not a bad colonizer. So Luso-Tropicalism served as a tool, a political tool, an ideological tool, and a cultural tool to negotiate our situation at the United Nations. So we were not anymore a colonial country. We were a country with overseas territories. This is different. So we are here to be very careful and very attentive with the grammar, the vocabulary, the chosen words. Until now, am I being clear with you? Please say something. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So, thank you so much. Okay, so when we start witnessing the liberal wars in Africa, especially the territories colonized by Portuguese, by Portugal, we are talking about Mozambique, mainly, I'm going to be here very specific. When we are talking about the liberation movements that were related to colonial wars, especially the scenarios war Angola, the most the most terrible one were in Angola, Mozambique, and Guinea-Bissau. Of course, we cannot lose and put aside Saint Tome and Príncipe and Cape Verde, but it was the three countries that were at the center of the colonial war with Portugal. So Luso-Tropicalism was a way to make people distract with what happening in Africa. So we use the Luso-Tropicalisms to say, look, there is no fighting here. We are in peace because we try to hide this situation that were happening in Africa. Of course, as we all know, it was also the moment, the highest moment of African independence in many African countries. So, of course, Portugal was one of the last colonized countries to decolonize their overseas territories. So it was time to return to the metropolis. It was time to face a new era. It was the era of, for one hand, decolonization. So Portugal was the end of colonialism, and it was the time to embrace independence. The question is, to whom belongs today the thought and the debate on Luso-Tropicalism? Are we still facing the roots of Luso-Tropicalism in the country that where structural racism, systemic racism, discrimination, and this idea of racism is still alive? Yes, we are facing Luso-Tropicalism, but today in a different way. We are facing Luso-Tropicalism in a way that it becomes more subtle and it becomes more discursive when we talk about different days, very specific days. Like, for instance, the 10th of June is the Day of Communities in Portugal. So here, the Luso-Tropicalism is embraced and is shared with people like it is a wonderful moment. But in reality, in the daily lives, post-colonial Luso-Tropicalism still remains linked to that fallacy that I was telling you when I start talking. It's the idea that, yes, we brought good things, civilization, modernity and progress, but still you are a subject of submission, repression, refutation, and above all, we don't recognize you as someone equal to us. So Luso-Tropicalism, theoretically and discursively, is created as a metaphor of good things, but in a post-colonial, daily post-colonialism, in real life, Luso-Tropicalism, it's like, if I can use the example of Francophonia or Commonwealth, it's the sense that we were the ones who brought for you the language you talk. We are the ones that brought for you the grammar you use to think. We are the ones who brought for you the tools you need to be what you are today. Just give me one example that could be more concrete. Brexit was not more than imperial nostalgia. Brexit was the idea of the return of the empire and the refutation that we don't want any mixed people, but still we need them to make our idea of the grand narrative of an imperialistic country possible. We have the same in Portugal. If politically we embrace Luso-Tropicalism, in life, in real life, we don't embrace Luso-Tropicalism. we embrace racism, we embrace discrimination. Of course, we are strategic with our Luso-Tropicalism. We are strategic in moments of like musical festivals, cultural festivals, literary festivals, when everyone it's positive to be Luso-Tropicalist. But in fact, and I think Apollo Carvalho was extremely clear with that, what people sense, especially Afro-descendants people and generation, they feel that they don't belong to this idea or the real citizenship of a Luso-Tropicalist citizenship, where everyone are in the same narrative and everyone construct and share and contribute for the same narrative. And this is very important what I'm saying, because one of the fallacies of Luso-Tropicalism is very connected with today experience of Afro-descendants. They are still in between. They are not Portuguese, but they are not totally African or Brazilian or other identity. So it's very important to understand that they are in between, and Luso-Tropicalism, instead of working this, instead of embracing and debating this problem, is postponing, because politically we are still ignoring the wounds, the trauma, the amnesia. And there is a very good expression that I like. It's colonial aphasia. It's the silence. It's the forgetting. And Luso-Tropicalism contributes not for emancipation, not for historical reparation and acknowledgement, but contributes for this colonial aphasia and for these fallacies that still move around us. That's why denial in the first moment, if you remember, and reality that is now, it's so important in this balance to understand Luso-Tropicalism. I just want to, I'm going to finish without not finishing, because I would like to speak with people. I'm seeing here a lot of some interaction, and I think it will be more fruitful to speak with people. I want to say one thing that is very relevant. If today we could talk about the responsibility of Luso-Tropicalism debate, it belongs to us, Afro-descendants, but also belongs to people that are still ignored regarding their skin of color, life experience, especially because people are still in Portugal very connected to this idea of black and white. Even if the left wing in Portugal, they try to deconstruct these situations, our citizenship are still very vulnerable. And the question, the very visible and concrete is that we have extreme party, 50 deputies of the extreme party are in Portuguese Republic Assembly. This is a very concrete situation that we have to deal and talk about. And today, this last week, we have the confrontation of extreme party with people from other movements that are immigrant movements. And the violence was so awful and terrible that that's the moment that we have to speak and ask to the politicians, to our organizations and institutions, to whom belongs the responsibility to talk, to think, and to deal, and above all, to touch and bring people to understand what is today the Luso-Tropicalism thought, debate, and experience. I hope I was clear with my novel.
You were very clear, Sheila. Thank you so much. You still had time to go on, but then we can maybe have. Oh, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. But now we can have some more time for discussion, which I think is also great. We have some questions in the chat. Two questions from Stephanie. Stephanie, would you like me to read the questions, or do you want to speak?
Yes, please, Clara.
Okay. So Stephanie's asking if there have been specific shifts in certain words that have there been shifts in specific words as there is greater awareness of the gaps between theory and reality?
Okay, good question. Thank you, Stephanie. The problem here that I also face as a researcher is that we have a post-colonial theoretical debate. And here at this level, everything goes very well. The problem is that when you go to reality and you're tackling the experience of people, first of all, you have to deal with diversity, difference, and above all, with some, I would say, some suspicion. People they don't want to talk about this situation. They first of all, they don't acknowledge this situation because all the scenario around in Portugal, we are so worried about housing, health, salaries, poverty, that when you go to reality and make a debate about what you think about Luso-Tropicalism, I would say to you that in 100 persons, probably 3 or 2, they know what the meaning of Luso-Tropicalism, because we don't deal with this at our schools. Students, they don't know nothing about Luso-Tropicalism. This is that doesn't belong to our citizenship, doesn't belong to our daily debate, does not belong to what we are today. We were educated to forget people, to forget things, to forget memories, and to forget narratives. And that's what was saying to you here. Afro-descendants and all the movements they are witnessing in Portuguese society, they have been very fruitful for us and helpful, because they they are a kind of a tool to remind us that we have many work to do. 1 year ago, the Portuguese president, he talked about the idea, the challenge of we Portuguese to repair colonial, our colonized country. You don't imagine the nightmare it provoked and the confusion it provoked in Portuguese society. A lot of people was completely dismayed, very angry and nervous with this idea. And we don't have any word to replace this. We have taken in consideration the experience of immigrants, Afro-descendants, or retornados, the retournés. We have different words. We can use, and Gilberto is helping a lot with this work. We call it reparative journalism. I'm working with Gilberto. I have 2 articles submitted about Gilberto now. I'm working on reparative journalism through the work of Gilberto. And one of the things we do and we understand is that the words are reparation, hospitality, and empathy. It's what when we are analyzing the works of Gilberto, for instance, and the works of other colleagues, between activists and academics, we tend to understand that there is a sense of a good sense and a clear sense that we need hospitality, we need empathy, and we need above all confidence. We have between us now a wonderful writer, Jaimília Pereira de Almeida, and she has an essay on hospitality. And this is very important. How do we define hospitality? Is our ability, our capacity of bringing to our world, to our experience, the experience of the others, to bring and to create a more inclusive citizenship. And that's what is being done, however, in a very slow motion way, because the logics and the dynamics today in Portugal are not in the way of embracing this debate, but we have to thank, for instance, to Les Anneaux de la Mémoire, we have to thank Gerador, we have to thank Cristina Roldão, Apolo Carvalho, Jaimília Pereira de Almeida, and other people. They are doing a wonderful work, like, as I said, like a reparative journalism, like hospitality, like fraternity, and talking about this situation, although these situations are extremely difficult because we still are dealing with amnesia, colonial aphasia, and above all, the construction on manipulation of forgetting. I'm not sure if, Stephanie, if I go to your question and answer.
That was excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheila. We have another question still from Stephanie. Denial is something that is far-reaching. Are there comparative studies available that identify these processes in other colonial lineages?
Okay, yes. There is many works regarding this denial. One of the works that I really like, and I'm a little bit shy here because I'm also one of the editors of this work. It's one book that I published at Routledge. The name is Modernity Matters, where we talk about this thing of racism, what is racial surveillance, how racism, how modernity, or this idea of Eastern modernity is still alive, and how these realities of the past are still so close to us. We have the work of Anne Stoller, Colonial Aphasia. It's so important. The work of another anthropologist, I'm trying to remember her name, my apology. I can do one thing for you. I can, Clara and Barbara, they can send you my email and my phone. I can speak with you and send all the bibliography you need.
Yes, please.
For instance, we have Miguel Cardina. The work of Miguel Cardina, it's very important. The work of Silvia Maeso is very important because forgetting can be constructed with the silence taken by institutions, schools, books. If you don't listen, if you don't read, you tend to forget. So there is this kind of complicity, institutional complicity to forgetting. So we have works, but I have to be very humble to say I prefer to map the works instead of jump to the works. I'm going to be more precise and concise. We have works, different works, like Miguel Cardina, he works with former people that fight in Mozambique and Angola, men. So he analyzed blogs. It's a way of defy the forgetting that Portugal tends to put aside. Actually, yesterday I was finishing a novel from a Portuguese singer. Her name is Luisa Sobral, and it's a book on the two Germanys, the democratic and the socialist and communist Germany. And her work is about forgetting and denial of forgetting. And it was very interesting because at the end of the book, she asked this question: how many paths can a country put behind their own reality to survive? And I was thinking, the answer is Luso-Tropicalism, Francophonia, and Commonwealth. We can do this using this, enduring these fallacies, enduring this kind of forgetting with this kind of discursive and ideological narratives and marketing.
I like that framing a lot, actually.
Thank you.
So yeah, so maybe we can have a chat at some point later as well.
Of course. Thank you. So I think what I think we need to open our mind and to understand that different backgrounds, they will give you different ideas, different narratives, and different words. I don't like to create a word and words, because we need to understand that we need to deal with diversity and difference, and theoretically and empirically.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have some more questions from Barbara, and now a new question from Christine Renard. Barbara, should I read yours as well, or do you want to go?
No, you can read it.
Okay. So Barbara asked first, do you think we can extend your analysis to all countries in Europe? And then she asked another question, which I think is quite related. She asked if you work with other researchers in Europe on this question about reparation, about the importance of empathy and hospitality.
Yes, and I think she also said that I always mention colonial aphasia. It was her?
No, that's Christine. That's the next question.
Okay,
We will go there.
okay. This question was for?
This was from Barbara.
Okay, Barbara.
If you think you can extend your analysis to all the countries?
Yes. Okay. First of all, as a sociologist, I would say yes, and I would say no, because you need to be very careful with different backgrounds. Okay, I cannot say no. This is a metrics that I could impose in other countries. I need, of course, many European countries, they have their own colonial experience and imperialism, and on that, at this level or light, of course, we could say, yes, we can bring this debate to their countries, but each country has its own colonial experience, and we need to be very careful with that, because my idea is that the pitfalls of bring all the same experience together, it's to lose the specificities and the voices and the narratives and the memories within. Like, for instance, France, you have Indonesia, you have other parts of experience, of colonial experience, like Morocco, like Algeria, that we don't have. So how to put on the same level Mozambique, Angola, Morocco, and Algeria? Of course, they all were partners when they were struggling for independence, but it was completely different, and the principles and the background were completely different. And there was another, okay, I work with other researchers regarding historical and cultural reparations. Actually, I have done some research, I have some publication, But again, I'm very careful with this idea of the limits and the contributions of historical reparation. Because if we need to understand what the meaning of historical reparation is for a country regarding the background, regarding the generations, and regarding, above all, the challenge of that country. Let me just say, just give you an example. When Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, the Portuguese president, said to the presidents of Angola, Mozambique, Cape Verde, and other presidents that they need our Portuguese reparations, they said, this matter belongs to us, not to you. We are not anymore your subject, your object. We are the subject of the lives of our nation. We have our own voice. And this is very interesting. It's how you belong to debate historical reparation from the former colonized perspective or the former colonized perspective, point of view. That's the problem. Sometimes we tend to forget this balance here. I'm not sure if I was clear.
Yes, thank you very much.
It would be nice if I could be in person, in presence with you.
Hopefully next time. And so, Christine, like you already read a little bit of her question, she says, you always mention colonial aphasia. This word is so meaningful as it includes deep trauma at the same time. It is as if you were saying two realities at the same time. How can we heal such deep trauma? That is my question, but maybe you already answered, in fact.
I think, Christine, thank you so much for your question. I think I'm going to be very honest with you. I could not do this work if I was not myself the generation and the legacy, a woman legacy of all these narratives. I'm a great granddaughter of a white man who went to Mozambique with relationships with a black woman. I'm a mulatto, I'm an Indian, I'm a Jewish, I'm a Greek, I'm Portuguese, I'm Mozambican. And all my life I was dealing since early childhood with this perception that we are more than one person, we are more than one identity. And I realized through my life a lot of silences and traumas, and above all, a lot of sense of limbo in my family. But also around my family, I used to listen to people saying, I'm half Mozambican, half Portuguese, I'm half French, I'm half Moroccan, I'm half Indian, I'm half British. And I understood one thing. We have our own ethnicities, domestic ethnicities, because when public citizenship fails, we need to create our own ethnicities and we need to create our domestic ethnicities. What do I mean with that? Is home, it's the place where we create and recreate the entire narrative that makes sense, that give us continuity, identity, and above all, a sense of own hospitality. And I'm sorry, I'm talking about this and I'm getting emotional because this is like I'm seeing my grandmother and my mother and so many other persons that were not able to talk about this. And I'm so privileged because as I'm a generation that through my research, I can talk about all these people. I talk about their silences, about their traumas, and above all, I can talk about something they could not say, and also to verbalize, I'm here, I'm in between, I'm equal. So, and our work that we are doing here It's like we are not them, but we are representing them, and we are giving them as a witness the value, the value, the gratitude, and the hospitality to our own lives and to the reading of the world through their lives. I'm not sure if I was clear enough because I got a little bit emotional. Sorry.
I think you were perfectly clear. And I think this is a beautiful and very strong note to end this conversation on.
Thank you.
Very moving, as Christine is saying.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Unless anyone... No, please don't. Super wise and very, very moving, Sheila, and super honest as well.
Thank you.
So thank you for sharing all your knowledge with us.
Thank you.
I don't know if anyone else has any more questions. If not, I think this is really the perfect ending to this talk, Sheila. Thank you so much.
I'm not sure.
It's always an honor listening.
I have 1 minute, but I want to express also my gratitude because it's these moments that I feel that I'm contributing to a bigger and deeper and honest citizenship, and making sense of my own mission to say that I'm not alone, because many times I felt I'm alone here. And it's good to know that I'm not alone. It's the struggle and the fighting and the passion and the knowledge is so worth loving and struggling and thinking. So thank you so much. My gratitude is for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheila. It was very interesting, very moving, and very important to have this word, to have your presentation. Yes,